Good evening, all. Welcome to the third day of our Atal Fdp on concepts and application of machine learning and deep learning for real-world problems with hands-on training using Python, organized by the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, College of Engineering, Perumal. We are extremely happy to inform you that the NBA accreditation of our Electronics and Communication Engineering Department has been extended up to 2025. Today, we received the mail regarding this extension. As the accreditation coordinator of our department, I take this opportunity to thank all who have cooperated for achieving this goal. Once again, thank you, dear all, for your hard work. Thank you. So, moving to this section, today we have session on research methodology. And this section will be handled by our respected resource person, Dr. Sameer Babu M., Associate Professor, Department of Adult and Continuing Education and Extension, Jamia Millia Islamia Central University, New Delhi. Welcome, sir. Also,
Thank you, ma'am.
I welcome all the participants, course convener, and coordinators to this section. Dr. Sameer Babu M. is currently serving Jamia Millia Islamia Central University as Associate Professor in the Department of Adult and Continuing Education and Extension. Earlier, he has worked with reputed universities like University of Kerala, Central University of Rajasthan, Aligarh Muslim University, Delhi University. He has 10 projects to his credit, including ICSSR Impress Major. He has been awarded with prestigious Shastri Mobility Grant to Canada in 2020. He is presently associated with Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia as visiting professor of education. He got 3 patents for innovations and got research awards from University of Kerala for the last 3 consecutive years. He has also published 11 tools and 18 authored books. He also offers one complete MOOC course on SWAYAM platform. Now, I invite Sameer sir to take over this section. Sameer sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your nice introduction. Thank you, the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to discuss some of the significant aspects on research. I'm so happy to be with a light group of people in academics. Right. I just entitled Research and Development Certain Concerns. So let us come to the directly to the concern of research. When we talk about the research, definitely there are certain concerns in mind. Why we are doing research? As I know that most of you are from the engineering stream, science and technology stream. So why we do research? So there are certain concerns in research. Of course, when we talk about research, and the productivity both go hand in hand. That is, for the product, it's after the research we are getting some products. So research and productivity go hand in hand. Similarly, there is a concern of social appraisal as a name of research. So any research, as an engineer, if he or she is developing something as a new structure, or they are developing some kind of new machinery, new vehicle, new model things, they kind of new, I mean, like when nature friendly fuel based some kind of vehicles. So everything is having a major intention as a social upliftment or a service to the society. So this any kind of research, say for example some medical science research, so they are doing research for the humanity, for the survival of humanity, for against some as a remedy against the kind of issues or some of the symptoms of diseases. If we are talking about pharmaceutical research, they are also developing something for the betterment of humanity. Of course, there will be certain other concerns like profit, business, patent, publication. But other than that, the ultimate aim will be the social good or social concern. Similarly, when we talk about the research and the concerns of research, definitely the popularity is a matter. So we are doing research when you are in a in a university, research university, or you are in a research center, national importance, IITs, IIM, IIIT, wherever you are working in a college or an institution. There we have a popularity concerns, of course. I have to be one among the faculty members those who are doing research. My name should be depicted, name should be enlisted when a 2% list of the scientists put by some competent authorities, my name should be there. This is a concern for popularity. So when popularity is concerned, we are also doing research for that. And finally, I can tell you that when we are doing research, it should be public. It should be available for the public to read. Then only it has a value. We are getting H index, we are getting citations, we are getting the item index, and all the scores we are getting only out of the reading and the citing of your work by the people. That is actually the exchange of knowledge happening through research. That is why people compete. And when we are approaching some funding agencies, like you apply for AICTE for some projects, or you're applying for Department of Science and Technology, ICMR, ICSSR, ICAR, all the funding agencies inside and outside India, they request you to submit your concerns regarding the publication. I mean the points regarding your publication. How many publications do you have? How many are in index journals? How to what extent you have the value like site scores? How much is your site score of your journal? How much is your the impact factor or site score? Or what is your citation? So which kind of journals you are publishing, whether it is Scopus Index, Web of Science Index, all the concerns we are taking into account, because we need to popularize, we need popularity, also we need funding. So these are the some of the concerns that all the time we take into account during research. Now see, when I caught Srinivas in 2022, some of the I've just taken from blog of Times of India. He's published and he explained that whenever we are doing research, the problem should not be simply from the academia. As he mentioned, the problem of research should be emerged from the community, from the immediate society in which we live. Then only the research will get that core of its significance. So that I just contextually I mentioned. Now, when we are talking about exactly the research, whatever the stream you are from, it's a chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, civil, computer science, electronics and communication, wherever you are from, the research should have certain focus. When you define research, it is a kind of activity, it's a kind of structured activity that is solution oriented to a problem in the sense we are not talking about a problem that is having a negative implication. Problem in the sense it is a concern that you would like to address through a rigorous process of research. So when you are going to apply certain methodology, certain innovative techniques in a new and novel method in order to find out certain significant changes or significant results, so that process is known as that systematic process is, we can call it as research. So when I list out some of the characteristics of research, research should always be solution oriented. Otherwise, if you don't want to come up with any solution to a specific key question of the society, whether it is social science research or it's an engineering science research, medical science research, we call it as a basic science research, any research will definitely address to certain concerns that is very significant and not at all a duplication. So solution oriented is a concern of research. Similarly, novelty is an aspect of research. We know that the problem should be novel. The idea that you are proposing, the result that you are arriving at, the conclusion you are arriving at should be somewhat novel. Otherwise, if you are replicating, duplicating something, nobody will consider your paper or your document out of the research is valid. So when people consider your research as a new, then it should have certain specific elements that has not yet addressed by the previous researcher, the former researchers. That novelty is required. Again, when we consider the innovation, the methodological innovation, definitely there are possibility. If you are collecting the data and analyzing it, the mechanisms of analysis, the structure, the software that you're using, here there is a possibility of innovation. Similarly, the methodological innovation, we have the procedure. When you're adopting some procedure, some new procedure recently developed and practiced in some of the laboratories, sometimes some of the laboratories in Canada, they started doing some specific research with a specific technique. Or MIT has developed some techniques and they practiced it and they popularized it. So you have identified that in your specific area, you started adopting that and applying into your research and highlighting the result out of the techniques that you have applied. So this kind of innovation you should have in terms of the statistical techniques sometimes, or the methodology, or the strategies and procedures that you adopt. Then only people consider that okay, this is something specific. Otherwise, if somebody else has already developed it and you are just testing it, this will not be considered as a very significant contribution and as research. Of course, knowledge focus is a risk. So it should have an outcome. Rather simply the solution orientation. Research should have some knowledge focus. It should contribute to the field of knowledge. If you are from electronics and communication engineering, the result outcome should give some specific input to the community of AC engineers or the researchers, those who are interested in electronics and communication. Otherwise, what happens is it there is a chance of simply the replication, duplication. Somebody has done it in some labs and you are just doing it in India. So it may not be that effective. Sometimes you will be getting some attention by some of the researchers. Since you have done it in India, they have done it in some other countries, some Western countries or some other parts of Asia. So you may be getting some orientation, some focus. You are also doing that. But in certain conditions, for example, if you are doing something in a specific condition, you are doing a chemical science research or chemistry research. So the temperature, the climate, so all these factors may be affecting and it may be a cause for changes in your results. So accordingly, that may be even the duplication of the research in a specific context, specific environmental situation may be acceptable by the community of researchers. But most of the cases, if it is replication, if it's a duplication, people may not be able to accept it as a new kind of research. Then, as I told you, it should be systematic. When we talk about any research, the research should have a system. It should have a structured format. Whatever the framework you are following, whether it is in a phenomenological research or you are having a positivistic paradigm, you have a quantitative, you are following a qualitative,
അവന്
whatever
സിനിമ എടുത്തില്ലേ വന്ന ഉടനെ
what, whatever methodology you are
ആ
using,
പഠിച്ചാലേ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് പോകത്തോളം.
it should have a system. It should have a framework, so that we call it as a design. So everything is, sometimes it is structured in a survey design, sometimes we'll have a kind of experimental research design, sometimes it will be pure qualitative, maybe phenomenological or grounded theory research, or sometimes it will be case study research. So everything, it has a systematic research design, so that you have to follow. We call it as, initially we are collecting the literature from the specific area. You are deriving at a conclusion in order and finding out a research gap. What is research gap out of your comprehensive research literature survey? Maybe a systematic review has done, you have done a citation network analysis and identified some of the best article that has been discussed, the main focus, and you are drawing some specific input to that will be highlight, that will be a spark towards a new research. Then we are collecting some of the reviews and concluding, structuring your methodology, going for the data collection if it is data oriented, Or sometimes if we have a product design kind of research, if it is a designing kind of research, you will follow that methodology. If it is qualitative, we are going to the field and collecting the data, having interviews and focus group discussions. Sometimes you have a survey kind of things, so you are developing some questionnaire or developing some scales and inventories, going to the field, connecting to the specific groups, using appropriate sampling techniques, collecting the data. Once data collection is over, you have to validate the data, analyze the result. You have to manage the data, analyze the result, discuss the result, reporting, conclusion. All these are the stages of research generally we talk about. So, this way, the research should be systematic. It should be systematic in nature. Now, another point I highlighted here is objectivity of research. So, it should be objective. So, whatever research you are doing, you should have a specific concern in mind. There should not be any biasness, even though there is a chance of biasness in qualitative research. Still, we should be very careful about the objectivity and objective basedness of the research. Realistic. Some problems that you are talking about should be realistic. So once an instrument is outdated, it is not at all used in the system. So when we are going and researching on that, that is not actually the feasible and realistic research. That is, when you're talking about a technological research, when you're talking about engineering research, if you're talking about a product and development, so a product that is completely outdated and not at all used by the public, some, for example, pager. So a research on the improvement on pager was one of the instruments earlier people started using. I think it's 20 30 years back we started using that kind of project that will give us some indication, some messages when you get a call in your landline or something else. So there were some other use of the pager. So now you are taking such kind of instrument and doing a research on improvement of that. When you have very sophisticated devices, we have mobile phones, we have some other devices that gives you indication much better than the so-called dead devices. We can call it as it is outdated or dead kind of devices. So when we are doing research on that, that is not at all realistic and progressive. Similarly, feasible. So when we're conducting a research, it should or time bounded. It should be time bounded and on a feasible manner. You should be able to finish it. So these are the basics of research. When we talk about the research, these are some of the very basics of research. Now, see some of the categorizations of research. When we see research, there are lots of categories of research. Some specific categorization I would like to highlight is one is pure and applied. Generally, people talk about the pure and applied research as a basic categorization. When we have a pure research, it is knowledge contribution oriented kind of research, where we are focusing on the development of new theory. So, proposing some new theory or advancement of knowledge is a focus. Such kind of research is known as fundamental, pure, or basic research. So I have to go deep into the field of study. So I'm talking about some graph theory. I have an interest in graph theory. So I have a background of statistics and mathematics. So I'm interested in developing some new idea regarding the graph theory. So this is my concern. So I have to add into the theoretical sketch of graph or graph theory based. I'm advancing. There are many persons, those who have already carried out some research on graph theory, and they have proposed something. So as a researcher, I have to go deep into that as an Indian researcher, Indian statistician or mathematician. So I am going to deep into that field. So that is a kind of pure research. my intention is the development of knowledge, enhancement of the knowledge, adding something to the existing part of knowledge or body of knowledge. Comes to the other part, that is applied, that is just opposite, or we can say the other side of pure research. I have a problem. So I'm experiencing a problem. I'm not at all concerned about the upliftment of the what we call enhancement of the existing knowledge. So I need to find a solution to the problem. So what existing theories explains. So can I apply into real life situation? If you are talking about the intelligence, those who are highly intelligent, uh, they are also performers. Some psychological theory says that, or some educational theory says that those people who have a better kind of intelligence, they are also performers in every field. Maybe they are socially they are proactive, they have the pro-social. Similarly, they are also performers in many areas, in the academics, in the communication. So these are some of the research evidence. So I would like to see whether it is applicable in the situation from where I come, or in a situation where I belong to. So in such a situation, whether it is an applicable. So applied research. I have a problem and I need to solve it, need a solution. This kind of research, we generally call it as applied. Some of the experimental research are applied researchers, because we identify that some packages will definitely enhance the communication of people, the multinational companies, people working, engineers working in the multinational companies, they are not having interpersonal intelligence. So somebody, some of the psychologists or some of the clinical practitioners, they have put forward some packages. 1 month, if you give such kind of training to these kind of people, definitely there will be improvement among this group in terms of their interpersonal and social skills. So this is a proven fact, and somebody has given evidences of their results. They have published. Now, as a researcher, either you are adopting exactly the same thing, or you are adopting and changing some of the segments of the package and applying into a specific multinational company or a specific group of people, those who are working in multinational companies, to enhance their social skills and personal interpersonal skills. So I have a problem. My group or the sample I would like to work on, they are not having interpersonal skills and emotional stability. So I would like to enhance it. So applying, I'm trying to apply and get the result of that. Applied research. Come to the empirical research. So sometimes it's overlapping. Still, empirical research. I have observed something I wish to study. Now I've seen something. It's not up to the level. The political behavior of people is not up to the level. So I would like to study whether to what level they behave, to what level is pro-government or anti-government. So I would like to I have experienced something about the satisfaction or dissatisfaction about the government. So I, as a researcher, I have to observe what is actually happening. This is a kind of empirical to support my viewpoints and to ensure that whatever I have observed is right or wrong. And I would like to study about the specific concern. Deductive research. So I have a conclusion. So okay, it's not good. Or the suppose some of the historical researchers, take some of the historical research, or even we talk about the engineering. So engineering graduates are not employable. So it's a common concern in every area, India, especially in the southern part. We say that there are engineering graduates, mushrooming number of colleges we were having. Now, not now, I'm talking about. So colleges are there lot. All the students, many of the students are going to get graduated from the engineering colleges. Somehow they manage to get the degree. Sometimes after there are lots of backlogs and they clear it. But when we cross analyze it, it is a conclusion, many of the studies report that they are not employable to a great extent. So this is a conclusion that I have from my experience or from my limited knowledge and my readings. I got a conclusion that they are not properly employable. So I know to support it. So I wanted to conduct research, whether it is right or wrong. I have to analyze it. I have to check it, collect the data, analyze it, carrying out some interviews, analyze. This kind of research is known as deductive research. See, another categorization of research, another segments of research, we can have pure differences between quantitative and qualitative. So quantitative research is with number. Whatever we are talking about in terms of the number and figures, that is known as quantitative research. So sometimes we explain in terms of the verbally explanation. We may not have clear-cut data, unstructured data we may have. We have a summary of things. We have subjective conclusions through discussions, through observations, through interviews. Sometimes we are writing and developing research result. Such kind of things, we call it as qualitative research. So in engineering sciences, definitely we are not using very widely the qualitative research. Mostly it is used in the social sciences and behavioral sciences. So here the issue is that when we are doing a quantitative research, the tools and the questionnaire scales, whatever we are using as a tool of study, it should be structured very scientifically. Otherwise, we may not be getting exact results of the quantitative study. When it comes to the qualitative, you have observation, you have interviews, but if you are not writing it properly, for example, I can tell you, now you're talking about the say government, and you are talking about the we have a central government under uh, UPA, sorry, under NDA. So the NDA government or the government of Narendra Modi. So whether if I am talking about the concern of the people regarding the Modi, whether the people are opposing or accepting Narendra Modi or the government of government of Narendra Modi. So if I am asking if I have a biased mind as a researcher, there are chances of biasness in the more chances of biasness in qualitative. So suppose I am a pro, I am accepting the government as such, and I am from the party from one of the alliances of Modi government. So I have a tendency, I may have a tendency, not always, I may have a tendency to hide some of the defects of the government that people highlight. If I'm anti to, I'm opposing Narendra Modi government, for example. So I, as a researcher, may have a tendency to highlight or what we call it as so unnecessarily we may what we call it as it we exaggerate the points that we have against the government. So these are the chances. So but both the qualitative and quantitative studies have their own implications. In certain cases quantitative studies are not at all practical. In certain cases qualitative studies are also not practical. So in qualitative researchers, very big samples, generally we may not be able to take more samples of qualitative in qualitative research. If you're carrying out research in interviews, so if you're taking hundreds and thousands of interviews, that is meaningless one way, or the other way, it is very difficult to carry out very systematic, in-depth interviews. You're also, for example, if you're observing, observation is also not completely possible with thousands of people or hundreds of people. So well, number will be less in case of qualitative research. When it comes to quantitative, we have to follow very systematic or very significant sampling technique. Accordingly, we have to collect the data. We have to analyze the result accordingly. So these are the concerns of the quantitative and qualitative. I just mentioned. Now, I just mentioned some of the studies that we can find out as a trends in engineering education. These are some of the studies I just mentioned. So you must be knowing that still some of the very trends in engineering sciences, some studies regarding the tool development, some of the experimental studies, some of the areas that generally people focus on these days. Just I mentioned thermal engineering, super hydrophobic surface, structural dynamics, weapon engineering, unmanned aerial vehicles. So some of the I just mentioned it as some of the inputs. See, now when we are talking about any research, first of all, we have to identify the framework. So initially, the concern of the research is identifying a framework. That is actually required as a researcher. You have to identify. Now, see, as a research procedure, or when we talk about the research steps of research, if we starts with a concern in research, we starts with a problem. So, what do you mean by a problem? What is actually a problem in research? Problem is any concern that you are going to address, that you are going to address. Any concern, any topic of research that you would like to study as a part of your research. That is the problem. Now, when you have a problem, how do you select a problem? Selection of the problem is one of the key factors that we have to identify. So how do we select a problem? What is the way of selecting a problem? How do we select a problem? The selection of a problem, we can say that the selection may have certain concerns. So we have certain process of selection. One is the suggestion, right? Suggestion from the supervisor or some of the learned persons, some of the experts in the field. Another is experiences. From the experiences, you may have some of the problem. Similarly, from the reading, that is from the literature, you may be getting some of the very good research topics. These are some of the sources through which we select problem. Now, once we select a problem, what is the next? So I got something. I would like to develop a so automated an automatic car. I would like to develop an automatic car with like solar energy. Automatic car with solar energy, and it is for example, it is a seven-seater. You would like to develop it as a seven-seater car and economic. These are some of the concerns you have. You are proposing the design and development of an automatic car using solar energy, having seating is not a concern still. I just mentioned, and economic in nature. So if you propose this kind of an idea, or devising anything, I'm just mentioning some concerns. I'm not very familiar with the engineering sciences. So this is a concern. Once you decided a topic, next concern is that you have to know the existing status of research in the specific field. So once you are designing something, before finalizing your problem, this is your problem. As I told you, as I mentioned, this is your problem. So before finalizing this is your initial thought actually. This is your initial thought, or we can call it as initial problem. So once we have an initial problem, to ensure that this problem is you are able to carry out research with the same problem. So you have to have a rigorous review. You have to have a regress review. You have to answer regress review. So in the regress review, you will be finding what are the areas. So when you are searching for review, so review means related studies. So when you are going to research, when you are going to do something about the review, so there are certain areas you have. So you have to have review on automatic vehicles. This is a review, automatic vehicles, isn't it? Automatic vehicles will be a kind of review for you. Cars and recent developments. This will be another kind of review you have to see. Vehicles using solar energy. This is another concern for you. Economic vehicles. Larger cars and economic or larger cars, for example. So these are the concerns you have to. Studies on larger, bigger cars, studies on automatic vehicles in general. Specifically, if you have some specific studies, you can concentrate on the cars only. Cars and the recent developments. There are driverless cars, there are navigation based cars, driverless cars, different energies, fused energy based, on demand based. There are many developments in car industries. Vehicles using solar energy, economic vehicles, if you specify economic vehicles using solar energy, using solar, larger cars and solar energy, solar fuel, solar energy. So these are some of the areas we are deciding. This is actually now this decision of the keywords in the review. It is up to the researcher. What is the concern of you? So here, as a researcher who is having a basic knowledge of engineering, without proper in-depth knowledge of engineering, I have divided these keywords. So sometimes you are a uh, very much into the engineering sciences, especially the specific field. So you may have very significant keywords to search. So accordingly, you search the studies, have the systematic review sometimes, go for citation network analysis, through which you can find out papers of better choice. Very good papers that people select as one of the key paper of the specific area. You can get it. You can trace the trend. Accordingly, the trend of studies you will be getting. You will be getting the trend of the studies accordingly. This is the activity that we have to do rigorously. So here, when we are talking about the review, there are certain concerns. What are the sources of review? When we are talking about review, mainly the concern comes into mind. What are the sources? There are some primary sources. There are some primary sources. We have secondary sources also. We have secondary sources that is published. If something is not published, some government reports or first-hand information that is not published, that is known as primary. In the secondary, we have n numbers of resources. In the secondary resources, we have books of various kinds, edited book, authored book, translation, compilations, multiple volumes. All the aspects will be coming under books. We have proceedings, we have journals, we have academic journals, we have magazines of various kinds that gives you information about newspapers, sometimes the newspaper bulletins, or we can have newspaper editorials or specific pullouts or some specific stories of the newspapers. We have weeklies. Other than the magazines, we have weeklies sometimes. So I'm not writing that. We have blogs. We have YouTube channels, YouTube videos. We have TV programs. We have radio talks and radio programs regarding websites, archives, research archives. I would like to mention here repositories and archives, notices and brochures. So all these are we can call it as n numbers of resources we have. So whatever the possibility you decide, when I talk about this specific kind of engineering science, where I have to go. If I talk about the journals, shall I go for Scopus database? Shall I go for Web of Science? Shall I go for something else? Whether I can go for Science Direct platforms, Science Direct recording. Whether I do come from Wiley International, Taylor and Francis, whether I go for Wiley International, Backwell and Synergy. There are many repositories, many platforms that publishes sometimes, that accumulates, that collects and stores data and papers regarding the specific field. So whatever possibility you are collecting, accordingly, we are finalizing the review, finalizing the problem. So once you go through the review, you will get a clarity. Okay, this has been carried out by many. So when I go for the specificity, I have to twist it. The change, I have to change it. So people concentrated on the more concentrated on the solar cars. So can I go ahead with the solar, or shall I go for something else? Size of the panel or the absorption method that they adopted. So everything you can change based on the review you have collected. If it is a replication, a kind of those who have already carried out such studies, it is simply the you are carrying out the duplicating the study, that may not be acceptable by people. So you have to change a bit about. So finally, through the studies, you will be getting many inputs regarding what you are getting, regarding the design, regarding the recent developments, regarding the procedures generally people adopt, regarding the tools people use, regarding the techniques of analysis people have, stat people generally use. So all these are the similarly in engineering sciences. Definitely we have some machinery, right? Procedure, statistics, that is stat. Okay, machinery people use. What kind of machinery, materials they use, laboratory they have, or laboratory they visit to. So all these very basic inputs you are getting out of the review. So this is a purposeful cross analysis of the knowledge system that you are doing through the review. Yes. Now, after this, as a researcher, you will be consulting your supervisor, you will be consulting your research team, you will be consulting some of the experts in the field. Or sometimes, if you are an expert, you will be discussing with your collaborators in research, maybe from other institutions of India, other states, other nations, people from other countries. They'll also be collaborating with you in various research. So you are discussing the concerns, and then you will be getting the final problem of your research, or we call it as final topic. This is the very significant assignment that every one of us have to do, and we have to give all these tasks to the research scholars if you have. Now, once the problem is very clear, you have to substantiate why I'm going to, what is the rationale behind the selection of the problem. So from these exercises, you will be readily getting all the evidences to support your study. That writing that is known as need and significance, or the rationale of your research. why you have selected this specific area, why you have not selected something else, why you have concentrated on car only, why you are talking about the solar based, what is the logic behind your selection, that you have to mention as a rationale of the study. Comes to the design, then you are finding out which design is so rational, then you will be having the rationale. Now you are coming to specifically the design of your study. Design, what is the design I can follow? There are many research designs available, there are many research designs available. So which research design is appropriate for me? So from the review, you must have seen, you you might have concluded some of the areas that people widely used. Some of the research design people widely use. Some of the research design that is having very difficulty in carrying out the research. Some of the research that is to be carried out still not yet tried in the context of India. So accordingly, you are designing you are taking an appropriate design for your study. Maybe this product oriented design. Sometimes you are developing some prototypes. Sometimes you are experimenting. It's a kind of experimental design you have. Sometimes you are carrying out it's a feasibility of research. You are conducting a survey among engineers or the people, those who are in the workshop while designing the issues and concerns, while designing such kind of car. Maybe because of that you need a kind of survey design sometimes. So it is up to you what is your focus. So that is research design. And design is a framework of research. It's a framework of research. As I told you, research design has its own significance. We can say that there are various designs have various connotations, or various designs have their own systematic styles and steps. If I follow the experimental research, I have a system. For example, I'll tell you some of the design experiment. If I talk about experimental research, in experimental research, there are lots of families of experimental research. We have a single group design or a single group designs. Talking about in terms of psychology now. Okay, if it's a single group design, for example, my one of my examples previously I talked to you. So engineers in MNCs, multinational companies, are not social. This is my concern. So they are not social. I have to improve their social skills. If I pointed out that, identify that this is a problem, so I have to have an experimental research. So my concern is applied research here. My major point is in applied research. So I would like to take an experimental framework, experimental design here. So I have a single group, a group of engineers I have selected. So I have two options here. So first, what I have to do is, first I have to have a pre-test on social skills. Their social skill, you are testing the social skills. Here, next is intervention. In the intervention part, we have two options. One, adopting something. Other is adapting. Three things, I'm sorry. Three things we have. Another is developing something. There are three options of intervention. Adopting is somebody has, Mr. X has developed some strategy for improving the social skill of engineers in multinational companies. He has experimented it and he proven it successful. So just adopt it and use it in your context, your specific cultural context. You're adopting it and use it. Sometimes it is adapting. I will take it some of the aspects, but at the same time, I don't take it exactly as such. Some of the elements I'll take it, and some of the elements I may not go for that. It is not culturally fit for my engineers. It is not good for my engineers. The strategy they adopted for students, or they adopted for teachers, or they adopted for policemen, it is not good for the engineers, those who are in multinational companies. So, or sometimes it requires some field experiments. So some field trip they have planned in between the experiment. 1 month experiment, some field trip they have planned. So you don't want to have a field trip. So you can cut short it. So that process is known as adaptation. Because not adoption, it is adaptive. Adapting the strategy based on the convenience, based on the requirements, you can change a bit and use it. But concern is that for everything you need a consent of the concerned people, those who are developing. Next is developing. You are developing your own strategy of a month or 15 days to enhance the social skill of engineers. Here what happens is you have to validate it. You have to validate the activities that you are going to use for the engineers. So that is known as developing an intervention. So intervention is given. For example, it is a 1 month intervention. So after 1 month intervention, there will be a post test. There will be a post test. The post test will be the same. Whatever you have given here as pre-test, the same will be a post test here. Post test on social skill. Then we are comparing which whether they have improved it, whether they have an improvement in social skill. Then we can identify, we can say that the thing is successful. The intervention is successful. This is a kind of experimental framework. There are many other frameworks also. You can compare some of the experiments. One group is given some framework, other group is given another framework. That is also possible. So accordingly, you are taking respective design of research. Maybe survey design you may have, some kind of correlational design sometimes people use. Factorial design is another. Exposed factor research design, exposed factor. You must be knowing that exposed factor research. Exposed factor research, for example, a murder happened. Police carry out a kind of research that is exposed factor research. We are writing a FIR and the incident happened and we are going back to find out the reasons, find out the causes. So that is known as exposed factor research or causal comparative design. We will call it as exposed factor. Now, there are many research design. Similarly, in engineering sciences, we have a product development research designs. So, whatever is the possibility of you have to identify and fix your research design. That is the concern. Now, I'll be stopping as I was told. We have a short break. Okay. So if you have some questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, if it is simply I'll just hand over the mic to the organizer. Thank you. We'll continue very soon.
We will have a short break for 10 minutes.
Dear participants, please join back so that we can start the section. Sameer sir, please continue.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So we have just talked about the various concerns and steps in research. So now, when your design is okay, design consists of the method. It's a framework, as I told you. Which method is suitable for you to study? What is the procedure that you have? What kind of measures you are going to use? Measures, you must be knowing the measures. Measures. Measures are tools. Measures in research are known as tools that generally we use. In the tools, if it's social science research, there are many tools. We have a questionnaire. Questionnaire is considered as a tool. Scales are considered as tools. Inventories are considered as tools. But in sciences and engineering, we have tools and equipment. Generally, we use tools and equipments. Sometimes we have data sets. We have data sets we use in certain sciences, especially the data science field. We have data sets, and some of the economics we use data sets to have prediction about it. In some of the in cases of some chemistry experiments, there are some data already available regarding various segment of or various elements and their properties in different context. Similarly, we have tools, we have equipments, machineries, we have machinery and equipment. So this is all the things generally we consider as a part of the design and methodology. Then we have generally in engineering sciences and science field procedures. So the procedure of there are various procedures, some of the measurement, some of the units of measurements, what measurement units you are taking into account, what kind of procedure you are following. All these things you have to mention very scientifically in a research uh, step as one of the research stages of research. See, then you are going to, once your design and methodology is very clear, and as I can tell you is that the funding agencies, you are applying for a fund, if you are submitting your proposal for a postdoctoral work or your PhD or any funding, definitely the design and methodology should be very comprehensive in such a way that it discusses everything about the process of your method, the process of your research. That highlights that actually the procedure, design, and methodology is everything about your research. Sometimes people have an attitude of writing very minimum in design and methodology. Actually, in a funding agent, mostly the funding agencies consider the research or the proposals where it is given very comprehensive methodology or comprehensive design. So you can write your concept in a very few lines. You can give your background of research in one paragraph or two. But when it comes to the methodology, it should be very specifically mentioned what you are going to do, in which situation you are going to have the specific equipment, in which stage of your study you are using the specific laboratory facility of a specific institution, why you are using the facility for a specific procedure. So everything, the rationale behind the use, the inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, units of measurement, the requirement in terms of the equipment, required in terms of the elements and to the techniques, everything specifically mentioned and it should be a periodic, it should be a systematic arrangement, it should have a specific system. Whatever the process that you have in your research, the accordingly based on its happening, based on its occurrence, you have to arrange it. That is actually a clarity, that is actually we can call it as a clarity that the researcher can give as an input in the research proposal. Now come to the procedure. So procedure should be very specific. Procedure should be very specifically. We have to identify the procedure. So from the previous researchers, maybe this is a dissertations, projects that have been carried out by other faculty members, the research papers, these will give us light into how can we write the procedure of the study or the way of data collection. If you have some devices for data collection, definitely that also you have to mention. Otherwise, mostly we have procedures in scientific and engineering research, technological research, we have some procedures. So that very carefully we have to write. Then comes to the result. So when you're talking about a procedure in research, when you are talking about procedure, definitely you should mention which analysis strategy that you are going to use, what kind of to conclude and come up with the result of your data that you have collected, what kind of software you are using. There are advanced softwares. So based on the data, specifically the popular and most appropriate software you have to use. If you're submitting some data to, for example, if I am from education, we generally, I am specialized in educational psychology. So many of my papers are in educational psychology. If I go for some kind of data analysis, so we generally use SPSS. So once you give your paper to some journals, they will never accept your paper if you don't have at least a structural equation modeling based tool development. So if you have done something manually, we have some procedure of not very manually. I'm talking about the earlier standardization process of the scales in questionnaire was something else. So now people follow the factor analysis based elimination of the item, pointing out the fixing up of the principal components, and structuring the factors accordingly. So earlier it was not the way of doing. So many of the researchers, even in the departments of education and psychology, follow the traditionally we followed pattern. It's not, there is no harm and wrong in that, but at the same time, when advanced techniques have come, people started using innovative ways of doing things, we also have to update ourselves. So I have this, my supervisors told me to do this. These are not the excuses in terms of all these processes when we are coming to the international scenario. So when the publication comes, when the submission of paper and review comes, we when we are not using, it will be highlighted and you will be getting a review and you will be getting a rejection of your paper. So these are some of the, so that there comes the innovation, there comes the need of collaboration with people, those who have the skills in that. You may be having the intellectual skills to devise and concise your papers and writing your reviews and doing your experiments. At the same time, for writing and analyzing the data, someone else is interested and they have a specialization and they have a special talent in devising these kind of things, writing a paper with a proper use of statistics with advanced, so-called advanced techniques that is accepted by many of the journals. So let us have a collaboration with those people. Try to keep on contacting and getting in touch with those people. So you will be initially drafting your paper, and when it comes to the result part, you will be giving the data to the person. He or she will be doing the analysis accordingly. So the partnership happens, collaboration happens, and paper will be published easily since it is of better standards. So that we have to have a clarity. Results, when you were dropping, when you are putting your results, the structure, the style, the explanation of the tables and figures, appropriately following the standard styles of writing. You have to follow the style of writing. I know that most of the engineering disciplines follow IEEE format. So the citation manual of IEEE is a must. So that we have to, if we have a less competence over that, we have less command over using IEEE, we have to develop it. Similarly, we can also go for some reference managers and the writing assistants like Grammarly. So that is also one of the possibility of structuring the paper and structuring the result accordingly. Now come to the when result is over. In every study, we have to concentrate on the discussion part. In a research, discussion matters a lot. So discussion means the review that you have collected. So what is the stand of the reviews in terms of the result of your study? You have a research results now after analyzing the data conclusion, and you got some kind of result in terms of innovative ideas that you have proposed. Now you have to discuss what about the review that you have collected from an American study, from a European study that you have collected, a study that is published in by a research lab of Japan. What is the stand of the researchers in terms of the specific concern? Whether your paper matching, whether your result is matching to that, or whether it is against the result of the state. So why and how, everything you have to discuss. This discussion should be in the light of previous studies, and that is very crucial element in every research. Whatever it is, it's a research project, publication, dissertation, whatever it is, conference paper, you have to have a very good section on discussion. Now, generally, we have a conclusion. And finally, the citation. That is the work cited. We will write as a references. The once we are talking about references, we know that the issue of plagiarism issue, copyright issue, licenses. So I don't want to expand much on all these aspects. We know that plagiarism checking software, we have to use appropriate, in the sense that we have Turnitin, we have Turnitin supported authenticate. So all the whatever is appropriate for the specific agency that you are going to submit your research results. Some of the if see the UGC approved universities, most of the universities don't care about the sophisticated software systems. Like many of the universities, especially the arts and science dominant universities, they need only the Urkund. I don't mean Urkund is not good. Urkund is good, but at the same time, the if you're talking about Turnitin or the kind of things, they have a more rigorous kind of checking system of plagiarism and similarity. So here, whatever is appropriate for your funding agency or your journal, accordingly try to use it and remove the similarities if you have in your paper more than the specific limit. Similarly, citation manual, I mentioned why citation manual here. So I have not mentioned IEEE. Okay, I have IEEE. I just took this here. This, okay. Summarize it. Yes, this is a database. I just took it. You must be having. Just Google it, you'll be getting. I'm also just pasting in the it's required. Anyone get it? Is simply Google. Uh, Google. I googled it. See, so it will give you explanation regarding what way you have to write a citation in text. There are two types of citation you must be knowing. There are two types of things you must be knowing. That is, one is in text. When we are talking about citation, we have in text, citation in text. Similarly, we have references, right? When we are talking about the citation, we have two ways of citations. These are the two methods that we do. So we have to do both, right? In text also, all the in text we should mention as references. In text will be short only, name and year only we'll mention. In IEEE only number you mention, number of the thing. All the details will be followed, right? So you can see the specific style of citation. Now, when we talk about citation, in the citation there are two specific things. One is a direct quote. We have a direct quote, concern of director, and paraphrased version. So many of the studies report that a paper should not have more than 10% of the total words as direct quote. More than 10% of the portion should not be as direct quote. There are many opinions by many people. So I just mentioned some of the opinions that I read. Paraphrase, that whatever is available, the definition or things that you can paraphrase in your language, combining many of the authors and their suggestions or arguments, you can combine and produce as your own. But at the same time, you have to mention their names as together. So these are the two ways of citation. And in both in direct and paraphrase citation, there are two ways of citing ways, two modes of citing or two ways of citing. That is, one is narrative citation and another is parenthetical citation. There are two ways of citation. The narrative is we say that according to someone. So here a way of writing is different. In the parenthetical, within bracket we write at the end of the sentence. But it is mainly we use in the APA. But you see the how we use it in IEEE. So you have to have a clarity regarding that. So I am not going to give everything about the IEEE because it's a format that we can use it. So the ways of writing, some of the examples of citation style, as shown by Braun, as previously stated. So some of the styles of quotation they mention, examples. Several studies suggested that. See the studies number only, it has given in the square brackets, followed, separated by comma, right? Then similarly at the end, we have a references. Similarly, examples of reference. If it's a book, how to write the book. See the writing of the books. The title of the books in italics. Every first letter of the title of each word will be in capital letter. Edition followed by edition after comma. See place of publication, publisher, comma, year of publication. The way of writing. It's a book chapter, another way. See the book chapter, it is another way. So if it is a book chapter, it is given in double inverted commas, the title of the book. In, it is mentioned in something. So in is mentioned, then the major book is given in the italics. That is the concern. Comma, its editors. Place of publication, publisher, year of publication, page number, pp dot. After year of publication, comma, pp is mentioned for page number, full stop, 192 to 217. If it's an electronic book, so mostly it is okay, but in an electronic book, you have to mention the year and date exactly. The three letter of the month is mentioned. Then within bracket you're writing online, full stop, available, write available, and with link. If it is journal article, see journal article is another way. If it is e-journal, you have to mention the term available and you are writing In the APA style, earlier we were writing retrieved from. Now we are not writing anything like available or retrieved as per the new edition of APA, just simply giving the link. Conference paper is another way. Website, if it is a website, see BBC News, M. Holland 2000 Guide to Citing Internet Sources online available, like link. So everything we have to have. It's not in a perspective faculty. I just mentioned if somebody is doing research and not completed, for them only I just mentioned this. Everyone know that. So these are the two ways of citing, and the citation we have direct quoting and paraphrasing. There are in text and the references. Some people have an idea that only the citation style is for writing the references. No, in text also, even the line, paragraph, spacing of the line spacing, paragraph, font which has to be used, font size, what is the first hand heading, then second heading, third order heading, what we have to give the size, whether it is italics, whether it is bold, whether it is underlined. So all the aspects will mention in the citation manual. Figure, where to be figure is left in intended or centralized, whatever it is, whatever the title of the figure, title of the table, everything is mentioned in the citation manual. So we have to have a clarity on that. Okay, there are many citation manuals in general. In the engineering and technology, we use IEEE. The one of the popular is APA, American Psychological Association style is very popular, and even some of the science magazines they use APA style. There are Harvard manual also. Harvard manual is also popular. Blue book is available, and blue book is for the low disciplines, low and kind of things. Then we have like MLA, Modern Language Association. Language and some of the social sciences they follow MLA. We have Chicago Manual, American Anthropological Association Manual, AAA, American Sociological Association Manual. We have the widely used is American Psychological Association Manual. Then for low, blue book, engineering technology, IEEE, Chicago Manual is widely used. Sometimes, even though you are from engineering technology, and some of the journals they have their own style. Even though they are from engineering, they may use APA. So that way we have to understand the basic style of writing. There are certain websites available. They will help you to change also. Similarly, if you use reference managers like Mendeley, Zotero, EndNote kind of things, there are options to change the citation style. But some of the journals may not prefer the article that you have developed in Mendeley. Sometimes some journals or some conference, they will strictly write, we will not take the submission that has been developed through any citation, any reference managers. So it may be making having some disturbances in this. Maybe I don't know exactly what the scene is. Maybe better you people can tell about it. Let's see. As a research, we have seen that research productivity matters a lot. So when you have a research, when you see the research, this is something that we can have the structuring a paper, how to publish a scientific manuscript in high impact journal. This is also, as a researcher, we should know some of the concerns we should know. So when you are drawing attention to this kind of papers, definitely it will be helpful as to uh, develop such kind of manuscript. People have always the concern about what I do, where I publish, how to publish, what I have to do when I publish. So before submitting the paper, importance of the title, abstract, how to write. So when we talk about the abstract, there are many kind of abstract. We know that there are structured abstracts. There are structured abstract in the sense that they give background, Similarly, design, objective, method, like small headings will be there in the abstract, and sometimes there are chances of a cumulative, this kind of a narrative abstract. So descriptive abstract, not narrative, descriptive abstract. So whatever is an abstract pattern, accordingly you have to write the abstract as per the journal system. So when you're going to a journal, first you have to keep in mind what are the requirements. So I have an experience when we go to the journal, if we are not reading exactly the scope of the journal, even though it's similar, I am from mechanical engineering, a study, so the journal that publishes the articles on mechanical engineering and related resources. So I cannot submit any articles on mechanical engineering to specific journal. They have certain concerns. So a couple of months back, I submitted an article to a Russian journal of education. So I got an immediate reply without immediate rejection reply. So this is not under the purview of our journal. So in such cases, if we are on a hurry basis, without looking into the scope of the journal, sometimes on a hurry mode, we submit. Okay, journal I found out, I've structured it, submit it. So first of all, let me explain. This is the requirement. You have to go through the requirement, that is scope of the journal. Second is the submission guideline we have to read, and some sample papers also we have to read very clearly. Then only it will be helpful as to publish it. I'm just talking in perspective to the initial publishers, right? So this all these have explained in the thing, so I can share with you the concern. So this will be good. Those who are interested, they can. Similarly, when we have a selection of the journal, another category people have a selection of it. One more article here it is. Oh, it's a guideline authors. So I just guidelines for others. This is a guidelines for others, a journal, that is Journal of Crime and Justice. It's a journal on law. So if you are going to submit a paper, the guideline for others, you have to read it very clearly. Similarly, the recent studies, many articles you can find out there. If you go to their homepage, their recent developments, I mean recent publications, they volume 71 in progress, so previous volumes, you will get the title, so that will help you to identify how to write and structure your paper. So guidelines for others I am not going to display for you. It must be. Now, another concern everyone these days asks, can you suggest any Scopus journal? Can you suggest a UGC care? So these are actually, there are websites, there are platforms for UGC care. So never go for these kind of questions. Please directly log into the UGC care. I have a ID, otherwise you can register if you don't have. It's a UGC care.unipune.ac.in. This is a login. So if you take this, immediately you will be directed to the UGC care website. Accordingly, you can. So I just mentioned this. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So where it was consortium. Okay. So here, subject wise, if I need subject engineering, if I need engineering based, I'm just going to search. There are many journals. ADVU Journal of Engineering and Technology, Assam Don Bosco University, they are publishing this discontinued from July 2022. Some are discontinued. This is journal is Bioengineering. MDPI is the publisher. It is till January only they had. So discontinued. So sometimes there are some predatory journals, some journals they were in the scopus, they were in the care, UGC care, but discontinued. But still they claim that we are in the list. So this will help you to identify. Never go for any suggestion from somebody who is not having any clarity. If some one is very good, it's okay. So these are this present till date you have to see. Rubber Science is a journal. It is having science. Research Journal of Textiles and Apparel. It is discontinued. So you don't want to publish it. So if you check it, if you check their website, they may say that it is UGC care, but it is discontinued from till it was till 2020 January only. Never go for such kind of journals. Nano composites discontinued. Mechanics of advanced material and modern processes discontinued. So don't never ever go for that kind of things. This is proceedings in applied mathematics and mechanics. This is till date. So you can go to the view, you can find out it and submit paper. So this is the way of identifying in UGC care. And this is not a way. I mean, just those who are asking. Sometimes a title, if you need to check it, you can write it. Publication language, if you need some articles, some paper to be published in Hindi, you can go for Hindi. Okay, these are the Hindi journals. Then Hindi journals, if it is possible to publish your paper in Hindi journal, there are 16 tabs. See, 16 minutes. Many journals are. Sanskrit University, many journals. Mostly it will be in the social science and humanities. So still some of the Ayurvedic sciences, see Ayurvedic sciences, it is in Hindi. But okay, it is at present it is. Many are discontinued. See Journal of Acharya Narendra Dev Research Institute. It is discontinued. So you have to identify whether it is continued or discontinued, all these things. Similarly, the scopus also, nobody, you don't want to take it. When you go to scopus, you will get all the data, what are the scopus. So I don't want to mention, you can also try and just copying it, pasting it. So anyone get it. People use it, but sometimes when it comes to some specific engineer, I mean, social science disciplines, people may not have awareness of Scopus. Even these days, many people don't have awareness of the how to search in Scopus. That is why in the PPT, I earlier also I mentioned. So I mentioned it as such, not meant for you. I know that science disciplines, especially engineering disciplines, people are very much concentrated on the index journals. When you're publishing, never ever misrepresent yourself. Sometimes people misrepresent your names similar to others. So misrepresentation in the Google Scholar, in the Scopus, we may add papers even though it is not yours. So that is a bad tendency people have. It's not an academically. It is not a part of academic culture. Be honest to the readers when you are writing something. Be honest to the readers. That is also required. Don't include anything that does not answer the question. You have taken some very good paragraph from somewhere, so you find that it is very complex sentence, and people will have an impression if I write it. No, never go for something in your paper if it is not relevant to that. Unnecessarily lengthening the paper is also a tendency of people. Don't go for lengthening your paper. Considering the limit of the study, limit of the words you write it. Don't reveal incomplete ideas. Don't exceed the recommended word limit. Too many generalization people say sometimes. All the Indian researchers are good for nothing. There is no way for teaching mathematics. So whatever I am proposing, this is the only way. That is, it's a panacea for all the evil practices of the teaching. These are some of the points people raise in the argue as they are just writing in vacuum without any evidence. All the government school teachers are not teaching in properly. These are some of the things people generalize without any evidence. So such kind of things don't use. Without references, you are not supposed to do. Don't plagiarize, proofread. Don't go for citing Wikipedia since it is changing. Nothing else. It is changing, so don't go for citing the Wikipedia. Don't forget to refer. Now, finally, I'm coming to the end. I'm sorry for this lengthy. See, we have to collaborate well. Some of the researchers, I have already shared some of the papers with you, links of the papers. So they mentioned that collaboration, without collaboration, some of the journals will not even consider your article, your paper for review, because collaboration gives intellectual exercise. Collaboration is the kind of intellectual exercise. It is required to collaborate properly, then only it will be good. So collaboration with sufficient number of faculty members from the same research field, not for the sake of collaboration. So put my name, I'll also put your name. Because this is not a kind of collaboration. Collaboration means you are doing something and you are sharing the quantum of work according to the predetermined objectives. So I'll work on the initial part. You can work on the result. I'll collect the data. You work on the analysis. I'm not well versed in the referencing kind of things. You can do that. So sometimes equally, sometimes 30%, 70%, sometimes 40%, 40%, and 20%. So the correct collaboration ratio and the work allocation should be there. Then support system. Many of the Indian researchers, we are lagging behind the support system, lagging behind in terms of the support system. So we require very specific support system. So we, as I told you earlier, we may not be well versed in the advanced technology, in the sense advanced software using for analysis or for graphing, for editing your images, taking your pictures, capturing your pictures. So in that case, you should need support system. So always we teachers and the faculty members, we have to argue for the support system in the institution. The students for their desk, their bench, their chair, their books, so that the administration will take care of. But as a teaching faculty, as a research staff, as a researcher, as a professor, you need the support system that facilitates and gears the research. Similarly, plagiarism services we should have. Otherwise, we have to argue. We have to ask the management and the competent authorities to ensure that the proper plagiarism software is available in the university or department. Paraphrasers. These days, paraphrasing is a tedious task since plagiarism is one of the threat for every one of us. So, need a paraphraser, like people use Quillboard. So it's common these days. People use Quillboard. I don't want to mention it. There are many other software. So in the Quillboard, you can just change the paraphrase it. Maybe you can expand it. You can precisely write it. You can use creative. You can use formal. So there are many things. You must be knowing that. Otherwise, I'll just mention. You must be knowing many of you. If you don't know, I'm just taking the Quillboard. So in the Quillboard account you can write your things here and you can take it. If you have a, I mean, I don't, if I'm not this thing logging into the system. If you are not logging into, you may not get everything. Only standard you are getting. Fluency also you are getting, not many. So if you're writing something, it will paraphrase you. For example, I am a teacher from India. India. I teach education in a university. For example, I'm just writing it. Just paraphrase. So if you have, you don't, many of us, I am an Indian instructor in a university. I instruct education. See here also you can change the word. You will get a teach, advise, coach, lecture of instructor. You can change into the, if you need teacher only, teacher, professor, school teacher, tutor, lecturer, trainer. So You can take is Indian. Indian, is there any? No, no, it's not mentioned as such. Okay. So I can rephrase also again. Indian educator here. I'm an educator at university. It may not be looking logically correct. So you can change it. Use it. In India, I work as a teacher. At a university, I teach education. In fluency, if you get something else, I'm an Indian instructor. In a university, I teach education. If I so informal, in simple, creative. I'm a teacher from India. In university, I teach education. So there are many ways. So accordingly, you can take and use it. So the condition is that we need a paraphraser as a subscribed version. Then only it will be. So we can try for college level or a researcher level also. You can have. These are the very minimum amount you can spend for that. Or if you have a research facility in the department or university, you can also claim for such kind of things. Writer's assistance also we require in order to support the writing like Grammarly, Ginger. So the version that is premium, it is required. Then only you will be able to do it. Punctuation errors, grammatical mistakes, these are actually na, like a native speaker or like an English person. You may not be. We may not be able to do that. So such cases, writer assistance and paraphrasers will be very helpful for a researcher. Researcher is he is having or she is having a, high level of intellectual capacity. They are listed as 2% scientist in the specific field. But at the same time, when they write, there are chances of errors. So we need a group of proofreaders and the support systems like these. This is again about the conference papers. I just mentioned you can also go through. I'm not going to put it in your chat box. It is every whenever you are submitting a paper to a conference. Also, there is a style of writing that we have to concentrate on. So this is about my concern for you today. That is when we are talking about research, some of the aspects that we should be taking care of, or these aspects I would like to mention with you. I know that these are not new to all of you. This is um, a kind of what we call it as a reminder for all of us, including me, that we have to concentrate on research in a systematic manner. Only systematic research produces very good result, and only very good result will be leading to popularity in the field of science. Thank you so much. Now it is open for discussion.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, if you have any query, please share.
Good evening, Dr. Shamir. Hi, this is Bibin, and I'm a researcher in the APJ Abdul Kalam Technological University. So I just want to discuss a personal problem with you. That when I normally submit a paper to my guide for checking, he always comes with a comment that don't blot your paper or don't use the filler words and all. So when I try to make it very compact, I feel as if the person who is reading it or the reviewer who is reading it is not able to understand it. So I try to make it a little more elaborate, and my guide always tells me don't do this, don't do this. So how would I tackle that problem?
Sir, actually, it's a suggestion only. I cannot give you a complete answer for this. Actually, here the thing is that we can keep on reading similar kind of articles and a kind of imitation, kind of you can just imitate the way people write. Actually, now it is since there are some issues in writing, so we can similar kind of research papers we can read how they have tackle these kind of issues. So that is the only possibility I can suggest with you. And second thing is that take the opinion of people and revise accordingly. And if your supervisor says something, you can also side by side you can give to some other persons, those who are well versed in the in designing and crafting a paper, or those who are from the same field. Like if you are doing if you are a research scholar, you can give it to some other researchers those who are working with you. There are also some of the they are also the supporters. They are also considered as the proofreaders, or they will also give you some inputs. So accordingly it will be developing. So when we do a paper, don't take it as, I mean, there are some standards as we know. So there are some requirements as a scientific paper. So as per the standards, whatever is written, read it continuously. Read one or two papers, or three, four, five, whatever possible papers, not for gaining knowledge, only for understanding the structure of writing. Doesn't mean that you are learning from the paper. You are not supposed to learn anything from paper. Only the way of writing, how they have put the fillers, how they have connected the sentences, what is the way of how they have expressed the ideas in a meaningful manner. This should be the concern for us. Then I think gradually it will be okay.
Yeah,
I'm also
okay.
learning that way. That is why I mentioned this thing to you.
All right, sir. That was really informative. And what you all things you have told of plagiarism and the paraphrases were really interesting, and I liked it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now I invite Sujit sir for presenting the virtual memento to Sameer sir. Sujit sir.
Okay, miss. As a token of appreciation on behalf of all the participants and Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, College of Engineering, Periman, I would like to hand over a virtual memento to Dr. Sameer Babu sir for his wonderful and valuable lecture. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. Navida miss.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Sujit sir. Now I invite Lisha Gopalakrishna ma'am for delivering the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, we have come to the end of today's session, and my duty here is to say vote of thanks to our resource person, Dr. Sami Babu M, Associate Professor from Jamia Millia Islamia Central University, New Delhi. Sir, I thank you from bottom of my heart for sparing your valuable time in spite of your busy schedule and sharing us with this informative session. Definitely a very useful session, especially for research scholars, I would say. Sir, I thank you on behalf of each and every one of us who were part of this session and on behalf of the entire team. So once again, thank you so much.
Welcome, and thank you too. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, the session is over, and tomorrow we can have the session at 6:50 regarding case studies. Thank you all.